నమస్కారం. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం విద్యార్థిని విద్యార్థులకు స్వాగతం.
Hello viewers, we will discuss word formation today. Another term for this kind of study is morphology. Word formation deals with the principles that determine the construction of words in a language. Let us look at some of these principles with specific reference to English words. By the end of this lesson, some of the main concepts that you will become familiar with are word, word form, lexeme, affix, morpheme, free form, bound form. There are also some processes that are important in word formation. These are inflections, derivations, compounding. Of the main concepts, let us begin with the word. Different languages have different word formation processes. Not all languages have exactly the same processes that we will be talking about today. We will focus on English to the extent possible and also try and demonstrate how other languages are different from English. The orthographic word is somewhat easily defined for English. It is not so easily defined for other languages. If you take the case of Sanskrit, you will find that words are written together in Sanskrit and it is extremely difficult to identify by means of the orthographic method. On the other hand, there is another language called Amharic in which special word dividers are used when writing that language. In that language, identifying a word by means of orthography is very easy. Let us take a language closer home, Telugu. Telugu varies in terms of the way in which it is written. Sometimes there are spaces between words, sometimes words are written together. It is not like Amharic, nor is it like Sanskrit. It lies somewhere in between. If you examine a page of Telugu writing, you will notice that it is difficult sometimes to find out what the different words are. In some other cases, the words are very distinct. Therefore, across languages, it is not easy to identify words by using the orthographic means, which is why we try to define word through various different means. At best, we are able to give descriptions of a word. We are not able to give precise definitions. This does cause a problem in a subject like linguistics, which we claim is a scientific study of a language. When we have a scientific study, we should be able to give precise definitions, but it is not always possible. We therefore move on to doing whatever we can. There are several definitions of the concept word. Let us look at some of them. The first one is a meaningful item which, when written or printed, has spaces on either side. This is the orthographic word. That is, it is an item that we can recognize as a word in writing. The written or printed word seems to be easily defined. It is characterized by spaces on either side. In the sentence, "This is a book," there are 4 words and there are spaces before and after each word. But take the case of the word school children. People tend to differ on whether it should be school children, as you see there, with space between school and children, or school children with a hyphen between the two, or school children without a space or without a hyphen. You are likely to find all versions when you come across this word. Thus, defining a word by means of spaces is difficult. A word can also be described as a sound or group of sounds that expresses a meaning and forms an independent unit of a language. If you take words like book, table, chair, you know what these mean. These are all groups of sounds that have meaning and form independent units in a language. But take the sentence, "My book is on the chair." This is also a group of sounds and has a meaning, but we know that this is not one word but a sentence. Similarly, in the same sentence we have the word the. What is the meaning of this word? We know that it is a word, but it is difficult for us to give a precise meaning to it. We may then conclude this discussion on word by saying that a word is a group of sounds. It is a single independent unit. It carries a meaning. But more than all of this, a word is something we recognize by intuitive understanding. Let us move on to another of the main concepts. This is word form. Take the word brother. Take the word brothers. Are these items one word or two separate words? While we would agree that brother and brothers are two separate words, we also know that they are also one word. Brothers is merely a plural of brother. If we want to look up the word brothers in a dictionary, we will intuitively look up the word brother, knowing that brothers will be a form of brother. Brothers, therefore, is just a slightly different form of brother. Similarly, take the following examples: carry, carries, carrying, and carried. We know that all the forms are essentially one word. They are different forms of the word carry. These variations are called word forms. Let us move to the concept of lexeme. The lexeme is an abstract entity of a word, and word forms are the different physical realizations of a lexeme. Thus, if you have a lexeme brother, the word forms of this lexeme are brother and brothers. If you have the lexeme carry, the word forms of this lexeme are carry, carries, carrying, carried. The convention is to write lexemes using capital letters. Now try doing some exercises based on what you have learnt so far. Identify the lexemes and the word forms in the sentences given here. The papers are in the printer. The musician performed well. The colors are beautiful. Those boys are playing. Think about these sentences and identify the lexemes. We will give you the answers shortly. Now let us see if you have got the answers right. In the sentence, the papers are in the printer. The lexemes are paper, printer. The word forms are papers and printer. In the next sentence, the musician performed well. The lexemes are musician, perform, well. And the word forms in this sentence are musician, performed, well. In the sentence, the colors are beautiful. The lexemes are color, be, beautiful. The word forms are colors are beautiful. Remember that be and are related verbs. In the sentence, those boys are playing, the lexemes are boy. The word forms are boys playing. Let us look at affixes. You will notice that S is added to the word brother to form brothers. ES is added to carry to form carries. ED is added to carry to form carried. And ing is added to carry to form carrying. You will be aware that these are suffixes in the language. Similarly, if you have the word unhappy, you know that un is attached to happy in order to form unhappy. And if you have the word incorrect, in is attached to form incorrect. Of affixes, we have suffixes, which are those that attach at the end of a word. We also have prefixes, those that attach at the beginning of a word. There are different types of affixes from the point of view of their function. These are inflectional affixes and derivational affixes. If you take brother and brothers, S in brothers is an inflectional affix. If you take the word brotherhood, hood is a derivational affix. The reason is that brotherhood derives a different lexeme, whereas brothers only derives a word form of brother. So, inflectional affixes therefore derive new word forms. Derivational affixes derive new lexemes. Inflectional affixes therefore derive new word forms. They bring about a grammatical change in the word to which they attach. Derivational affixes derive new lexemes. They bring about a substantial change in the word to which they attach by way of meaning. Some examples of inflectional affixes are play, plays, playing, played. Some examples of derivational affixes are player, playful, correction, and rethink. As I said earlier, there are different types of word formations. English has prefixes and suffixes. Many languages have prefixes and suffixes, but there are some languages which have other processes as well. For example, some languages have infixes. An infix is an item that is inserted in the middle of a word. Since our languages also do not have infixes, the concept of infix is a little problematic for us Indians. Relative to Indian languages, inflections in English are much fewer in number. In fact, some people say that English is quite impoverished in terms of inflections. Again, Indian languages are very rich in inflections. Just take a verb in your own language and construct a long verb out of it. You will find that a number of inflections are added on to the base word. In comparison, English has much fewer. Also, the number of inflections is fixed. You do not have innumerable number of inflections. Once you are familiar with the number of inflections that are given for a language, it is very easy for you to determine what an inflectional affix is. In the case of inflections, another aspect to be kept in mind is that inflections are attached to the main categories or parts of speech. That is, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs take inflections. Usually, other parts of speech, such as a preposition or a postposition or an article, do not have inflections. In fact, this is true of all word formation. Word formation usually happens only with the main words, or what we call content words, which are noun, verb, adjective, and adverb. If you look at English, you find that there are inflections for nouns, there are inflections for verbs, for adjectives and for adverbs. Examples of inflections for nouns and verbs. An example of an inflection for adjectives would be something like few, fewer and fewest. I am sure you have all learned the comparative and the superlative degrees of adjectives. When we talk about comparative and superlative degrees of adjectives, we are talking about the inflections that are attached to adjectives. It so happens that adverbs also take exactly the same inflections. An example would be fast. Fast, faster, fastest is an example of inflectional affixes being attached to an adverb. But do remember that the number of adverbs to which inflections attached is very, very small. Every language extends its vocabulary by adding new words. These new words are constructed by using derivational affixes and also compounding. New words are always added to the stock of the content words, that is nouns, verbs, adjectives and adverbs. And this happens by constructing new lexemes. We have already seen that derivations construct new lexemes, so does compounding. Indian languages are very rich in compounding. They have derivations as well. However, the number of new words constructed by means of compounding is much greater in Indian languages than in English. Let us look at the concept morpheme. If you take the set brother, brothers, brotherhood, you find that you can split them up as brother, s and hood. You cannot split up brother into further smaller parts. Thus, these are the minimal units that you get in these words. A morpheme, therefore, may be defined as a minimal meaningful unit in a language. On the basis of what you have learnt so far, try another exercise now. In this exercise, you should identify the affixes in the given words and also determine whether these affixes are inflectional or derivational. The words for you to work on are motherly, chairs, India, rewrite, examination. You will get the answers shortly. Now, let us look at the answers. Motherly has the suffix li, which is a derivational suffix. Chairs has the suffix s, which is an inflectional suffix. India has a derivational prefix. Rewrite has a derivational prefix. Examination has a derivational suffix. We know that a morpheme is the minimal meaningful unit. Just as a lexeme is an abstract entity and has word forms, the morpheme is also an abstract entity and is realized in the language as morphs. Some examples are given here. If you have the morpheme with the meaning negative, then the morphs for this morpheme could be un or in. For the meaning able, the morph is able. For the meaning play, the morph is play. If you want to express the meaning of having a quality, then the morph used is full. Notice that un, in and full are affixes, while able and play are words. Sometimes morpheme and morph match perfectly, as in the example play. The words bank with different meanings, that is, as in the place where we deposit money and as the bank which is near the river, are two different words in the language, but both have the same realization in the form of one morph. Let us move now to another concept called allomorphy. Look at the examples of a morpheme and a morph That is, the morpheme past has a morph ed. In words like miss, call, greet, we attach ed and construct the past tense forms as missed, called, greeted. However, the actual pronunciation of the morph s differs in the words given here. The pronunciation is determined by the last sound in the word. Voiceless sounds take t, which is also voiceless. So, has s end, which is a voiceless sound, and therefore, the pronunciation of the morpheme is t. Similarly, voice sounds d, which is also voice. So, take the example call. L at the end of call is a voice sound. Called has d at the end. With the sounds t and d, id is used. That is, if you have a word greet which ends with the sound t, the past tense morph is realized as greeted. Allomorphy, therefore, is the process by which the morph of the same morpheme is realized differently in different contexts. This is an example of phonologically conditioned allomorphy. In some unpredictable cases, the expected morpheme or morph does not appear. The past tense morpheme ed is not seen in the past tense forms given here. That is, write has the past tense form wrote and not the expected righted. Similarly, dig has dug and not digged. Make is made and not maked. These forms, we are taught, are exceptions. In such cases, we call these grammatically conditioned allomorphy. Here, there is no way in which we can predict what the past tense form will be. Now, try yet another exercise. Identify the allomorphs in the words given here and state whether they are phonologically conditioned or grammatically conditioned. Creep, crept, look, looked, hate, hated, cat, caught. Now, let us see if you have got the answers right. Crept is a grammatically conditioned allomorph. Looked has t, which is phonologically conditioned. K in look is a voiceless sound. Therefore, it takes t. In hated, the final sound is t. Therefore, the past tense morpheme is realized as id. This is a case of phonologically conditioned allomorphy. Proved has d because v at the end of prove is a voiced sound, and this is also phonologically conditioned. Caught is completely different from catch, and there is no way in which we can predict the past tense form caught. Grammatically conditioned allomorphy. Let us now look at some more of the main concepts, a free form and a bound form. You may have noticed that there are different kinds of morphemes. Free forms function as independent words in the language. Bound morphemes must attach to another morpheme. Thus, brother is a free morpheme, and s and hood are bound morphemes. You notice, therefore, that free forms are words or lexemes. Bound forms are affixes. But do remember that all words are not free forms. All lexemes are not free forms. If an item is a free form, then it is going to be a word. We mentioned that there are three processes. We have looked at inflections, we have looked at derivations, and the final process is compounding. Compounding is the process by which two or more words are put together to form one word. Some examples are blackboard, greenhouse, tablecloth, dining table, history teacher. Let us look at these examples again. You notice that dining is composed of dine and ing. Teacher is composed of teach and er. Despite this, we call dining a word and teacher a word. Table, history are all words. A compound consists of words. These words may be free morphemes or they may be a combination of a free morpheme and a bound morpheme. Let us now look at the relationships between the different processes. Inflections form word forms. Derivations form lexemes. Compounding also forms lexemes. Free morphemes are words and bound morphemes are affixes. Affixes are of two types, inflectional and derivational affixes. Word formation happens when inflectional or derivational affixes attach to morphemes or words. Word formation is also possible through compounding. Compounding is the combination of two or more words to form one word. The stock of a language increases by means of word formation. Words are constantly changing and new words are constantly being constructed. Every time a new phenomenon happens in the world, there is an influx of new words. The two world wars, for example, brought in several words into English. Recently, the computer boom has also brought in several words into English. Besides all of this, languages borrow extensively from other languages. We either borrow a word completely or we borrow some parts of the word with changed meanings. Sometimes inflections or derivations are taken from another language and combined with the words within a particular language. This also contributes to new words in a language. Words are always changing, new words are all the time being constructed, and this is part of this study called word formation.
ఈ ఉన్నత విద్యా కార్యక్రమాలపై మీ సందేహాలు, సలహాలు, సూచనలు పంపించవలసిన మా చిరునామా డైరెక్టర్ ఆడియో విజువల్ ప్రొడక్షన్ అండ్ రీసెర్చ్ సెంటర్, డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ, ప్రొఫెసర్ జి రామరెడ్డి మార్గ్, రోడ్ నంబర్ 46, జూబ్లీ హిల్స్, హైదరాబాద్ 500033.